Hello, today I'll be talking about the three principles you must follow when dealing with emotional trauma and loss. These three principles are cope, ignore, and thought. These are the three things that you must do after emotional trauma that will help you recover. After a traumatic event that leaves us devastated, a breakup or a death of a loved one, for example, we tend to spiral and forget how to look after ourselves. These three guidelines will help you on your road to recovery and to help get your thoughts together. For example, when you have a breakup and it was a long relationship, it leaves you broken. But when incorporating these principles into your mindset, it can ease the overwhelming pain and get your thoughts together. Now, let me define these terms. Cope. To cope with something is to deal with something difficult effectively. This is probably the most important thing for us to do. But how do we cope? There are so many good and bad things that help us cope, and even good things that can be bad in excessive use. If you like to play games and it makes you feel better, that is a form of coping. But when you play too much and start neglecting the other things in your life, then it is bad. The whole point of coping is to make us feel better while we're having these thoughts and feelings. A coping mechanism is a form of defense that your brain uses to help you with the problems and pain you are feeling in your heart and in your mind. When we cope, we typically do things that make us feel better and improve our moods. Like as I said before, playing video games or even just going out surfing or just chatting with your friends. You need to have these activities in your life that improve your situation and allow you to go on. You don't want to sit down and just think the whole time like, oh, this and that and this and that. Why couldn't this happen? Why couldn't that happen? Because then you're not allowing yourself to recover. Your brain is a very dangerous place when it's in a bad mood. So we use coping to allow us to get into the right headspace and to put our mood in a different position, like enhance our mood. You don't want to sit there the whole time just thinking and but you also don't want to ignore your thoughts. So typically after a major event, like as I said, a breakup or a loss of a loved one, we are in shambles. We are broken down. We are beaten down and battered. But we use our coping to able to get us into the right mindset, to able to put ourselves into a position where we can have the right thoughts in our brain, so we can think things through, and we are able to tackle down the problems we feel inside. Different people use different coping mechanisms. Coping mechanisms are very vast and different depending on the person. As I said before, like video games and stuff, like surfing or whatever, skating, making music, those are good coping mechanisms. But after an extremely traumatic event that leaves your mind broken, a form of coping mechanism can be a different personality or a different personality or just PTSD or vocal tics or any of that type of stuff. But I'm not talking about that type of coping. I'm talking about coping where it makes us feel better, it eases our souls, it eases our brains, calms our thoughts, the storm in our brain. And that's the type of coping I am talking about. The whole point of coping is to allow ourselves to rest, allow our brains to rest, our thoughts to rest, and we can just do what we want to do. And then after that 2 week period of just purely just coping, then you want to move on to the other principles. Coping should be your main focus immediately after the event happened in your life. You don't want to move on to the other principles. Coping should be your first principle, your first mindset, the first thing you should focus on after your event. Because after the traumatic event, your brain is in shambles, your emotions are everywhere, and you physically cannot. Well, it depends on the person really, but if you just can't sit down and have your mind and your thoughts in order. You need this period of feeling it out, doing what you must to feel better, and you don't want to like let your thoughts corrupt you. You don't want your thoughts to get in your you don't want to get in your head basically. And that's the whole point of coping. And different people cope differently. You need to find those habits and activities that you enjoy, that make you happy and like make you feel free basically. Like your that pain in your chest that makes it ease a little bit, the clouded of your thoughts, like your mental fatigue, it eases that as well. You need to find these activities, and you also want to make sure these activities are not bad for you, like doing drugs or hanging out with the wrong people. Get like doing playing video games the whole day, neglecting yourself. You don't want to do any of that. You want to focus on the good stuff. Like you want to have a creative outlet, you want something gardening, music making, painting, all that stuff that you can express yourself. You can put your emotions into it. And it's very vast. You like it doesn't have to be it's like you're gonna have different things compared to different people. Like let's say Jimmy down the road, he likes making music when he's upset. But you that doesn't work with you, that doesn't resonate with you. You like do playing games that you can put your anger and your emotion into that video game and that competitiveness and you can like go on. Or if that doesn't work for you, again surfing. That's another thing I said. You can put your effort into that, you can put your full focus on that, and you will feel fulfilled when you're done with that activity and you will feel relaxed. That's the whole point of coping. You want to feel fulfilled and you want to feel strong and like you did something worth doing after yeah. The second principle is to ignore. Probably the easiest to understand, but do not get it mixed up. This is not an excuse to ignore your problems. You do this to give your brain and heart a break from the constant stress and thinking you have been doing. Sometimes you need to empty your brain of those negative thoughts and just focus on yourself and your goals. The best thing to do is stuff that will improve your life in some way, like gym, work, or doing something creative. But you want to do everything in moderation and not overdo it. This is for taking a break, but not for running away. Running away. Coping and ignoring are quite similar, but coping should be done earlier to the traumatic event, and ignoring should be done after the 2 week mark. Now, I know some of you might be confused on what's the difference between coping and ignoring. There is a big difference, one big difference, and that is ignoring is clearing your mind of those thoughts, not focusing on it, not listening to any, just empty head, empty brain, compared to coping where you have those thoughts in your brain, those recent events in your brain, and you're doing it to ease the pain you feel. Ignoring is different because you need to put effort into what you're doing and it completely fuzzles your brain out from what you're doing. That's why I said gym or work or creative outlet. Yes, coping, you can do this, you can do those things to cope, but take like when you're trying to keep your brain healthy and not over stressing, ignoring is better when you're doing something that is ignoring is better when you're doing something that completely takes your full focus. That is like I explained, like gymming or working. You don't coping and ignoring is quite similar. And I know I'm probably not making sense, I'm probably just rambling. But you need those like moments of where you're fully locked in, you don't want to do anything else, you just need to work, grind, and focus on the future and how to better yourself as a person. You don't want to think of the bad, you don't want to think of the traumatic event, you don't want to sit down and just like think about it. Ignoring is fully just emptying it from your brain, not giving it any thought, and just not relaxing because you need to be working. You need to like do stuff that distracts you from that bad thoughts, bad feelings, distract you from that. I cannot stress this enough. Ignoring is not an excuse to not think about your problems ever again. You need that time to sit down and think and reflect. But the whole point of ignoring is to ease the pain on yourself and on your brain and on your soul. You cannot ignore for a long period of time because then your emotions will just be unresolved. Your feelings will be unresolved and unsorted out, and you'll just have a cloud of mess. And every time you think about it, you will shut down and break down. You need to process your information early on, but you need that week, those couple of weeks recovery, depending on the severity of the event. But you need those first couple of weeks of coping, and then after you do your coping, you can start ignoring and just relaxing and easing that pain down for when you are eventually going to sit down, think about it, and be like, okay, I need to think these thoughts, I need to feel these feelings, and I need to just ease that storm in your brain so you don't, to never be afraid to sit down within yourself and have that talk with yourself and be like, okay, this event happened, I had no control of it, I need to think about it, I need to this happened, this happened because of this happened because of that happened because this didn't happen. You need to have those thoughts. But ignoring, the whole point of ignoring is to ease the pain, is to forget about the pain, to just be yourself for those couple of days. And then after you are ready to take the steps to think about it, that's when you do it. So ignoring phase should be a couple of days at most. And you need that period of just relaxation, and just not having those thoughts. Now, for the last principle, thought. Thought is the most important step of recovery, and it's thinking about what happened and reflecting. Why did it happen? How did it happen? How did it lead to this? What can I do now? Ask yourself these questions appropriate for the event. For a breakup, it's what I could have done better, and for the loss of a loved one, it's more just thinking of the good times. It doesn't have to be a deep thought, it can just be something to help wrap your head around and help you understand what happened. For this stage of mindset and principle, it can happen throughout your recovery. It can happen during the coping phase and it can happen during the ignoring phase. But you decide when you start doing the thought process. You decide when you start thinking about it. It's all on you. But you need to make sure that you start thinking about it somewhat early on after the event, so you can figure everything out. You can resolve those emotions, and you can just okay. You just need to sit down, you need to think, you be like, okay, this happened, this happened, why, this, reflect, and you will be able to learn, or you'll be able to make it come to a conclusion on whatever happened. It really depends on the situation, and it all comes to you in your own space, in your own mind, on what to think about, and what you should think about, what you shouldn't think about, and how would you better yourself in that situation. You need this period of time. Get rid of all distractions. Sit down, late at nights when you can't sleep. You just think, you're like, okay, this happened, yada yada yada. You know, you need, this is the most, I can't stress this enough. This is the most important phase of your recovery, because you need to have those thoughts. Yes, I said coping to ease the pain. Yes, I said ignore it, to like forget about it so you can be yourself for a couple of days. But you need this phase, you need this part in your like line of recovery, because it does so much for you. And you can't ignore your feelings and your thoughts, else you will never resolve your problems, and it'll come back and burst out later in life. As I said, like a breakup. You break up with your girlfriend of like a couple of months, and then you never think about the problems. You never reflect. You never learn. You never do anything. So like later in life, you feel like, oh yeah, I'm finally over it. Oh yeah. And then same events happen, or you get closer to someone, or someone brings up your ex or whatever, and you break down, you burn out all those bottled up emotions and feelings that you never resolved, that you never thought about, that you never reflected about, come out, and you break down, you shut down, you burn out, you start screaming, shouting. Depends on what type of person you are and how you react to heavy doses of stress and emotion. You need the stage. I'm going to say this over and over again. You need to have these thoughts. You need that moment of time and space where you're all alone, deprivation zone, where you sitting down, thinking, no distractions, no noise, no nothing. You need just you and your thoughts. This phase is so important, because if you do not do this, you will never get over your emotional hang-ups. You'll never deal with the trauma appropriately. You need this phase, and I'm saying this over and over again, but you need to think about your things. Obviously, I can't tell you exactly what to think about, because it depends on the situation. There's a very little situation on what happened. This is stuff you have to come to your own conclusion about, or maybe talk to a couple of friends, get their insight on what's happening, ask them how would they deal with it, and then you notice, you know what's best for you, because it's you, it's your life, it's your brain. You know what's best for yourself, and you take a step back. You don't want to, but when you think about it, you don't want to have your emotions in your head. That's why you cope, and that's why you ignore. You don't want the emotions in your head. You want the emotions out, or at least lowered drastically down, so you can have the proper thoughts, so you can have the right mindset when you are thinking about it. You never, 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 never want to think about it during heavy emotional problems or like emotional crisis. Like you're angry and you think about it, you're just gonna come to all the wrong conclusions. Or if you're sad and depressed, again, you're gonna come all to, you can't all go down to the wrong conclusions. You need to be in a clear mind space, and that's why you do the other phases first, so you can be in that clear mindset, and then you can do what is necessary, think what is necessary. And like I said, I can't give you the right advice because it's very specific to what happened to you and your situation. You just use it as a baseline. The whole point of this video is a baseline of what happens in your life, and you can take these steps into consideration while you are recovering. And you're like, okay, this happened, I'm sitting down, let me cope for my pain for a couple of weeks, let me ignore so I can get into the right mindset. And then when you're feeling just a little bit better, then you reflect, and then you think, okay, this happened, this happened, this happened, and you need to do this. It's very important. It's very important. You may find yourself through the 5 stages of grief, and just be patient with yourself. And don't get angry at yourself for still feeling bad after what you consider to be a long time. We all take different times to heal, and different things help us heal. All that matters is that you look after yourself and tell the people in your life what you're going through so they understand and are patient with you. Don't expect the negative feelings to go away just because you don't think of them. They will come back and burst out worse than they have ever before. Take care of yourself and give yourself the time necessary to heal. Don't push yourself to get over things quickly. Don't get angry at yourself for you're not getting over things. It's your brain, it's your feelings, your emotions. Take your time to sort them out. You need to make sure you take your time, or else, again, as I said many times during this video, they will burst out later in life. And you do not want that to happen, especially if you're at a young age and you're like dealing with these emotions. You like block them out, your brain blocks them out, and then you become an adult, and then you have to deal with all these emotions that you haven't had the proper experience with because you just completely ignored them. And I know the brain is very counterintuitive, very counterproductive, because it does shit that just isn't necessary. It just does stuff that just doesn't help you actually to improve. And you got to realize this fact about your brain and understand your brain, because your brain's not necessarily always working with you, especially in your younger years, when you're teenage years. It doesn't really work with you. It just fucking does everything it can to make you feel miserable, because it's all those hormones in your body and all that type of stuff. And I'm not talking about hormones, I'm talking about your brain and your thought process. That's a different topic for a different video. Just realize, give yourself the necessary time. Give yourself the necessary recovery time. Don't ever get angry at yourself because you're taking too long to recover. And don't feel bad because you took a short time to recover. And you're like, hold on, maybe you didn't do enough things. It all depends on you and who you are as a person and your situation. Keep your head up. Keep your head up, kings and queens. Don't ever feel bad for who you are as a person. And just a reminder, I'm not a registered psychiatrist. I'm not a therapist. I don't have any professional experience, but I'm just telling you what I do in my life, how I deal with situations, how I deal with these types of situations, and how I think to get over my pain and my problems. Because I was a very repressed kid, and I let all my emotions come out in my recent years. So I'm just giving you guys advice on how I deal with my emotions now, and how I am in a much better place mentally, because I've been following these steps. And they may not work for you, because you may be completely different to the way I think, and that's perfectly fine. I'm just trying to help you, just trying to give advice to some people who don't know what to do. Don't take my advice as law, don't take my advice as God's will. I'm just trying to help and support you, and do not rely on what I said as fully help. Don't rely on it as something that will save you and clear your head out. Just take it as consideration and a guideline, and you can do your own thoughts, do your own healing methods. It's perfectly normal, perfectly fine. Do not worry about it. I hope that you're able to get through your stress if you've watched this video, and if you just watched this video for the sake of watching it, thank you for watching it. I appreciate all you guys, and please look after yourselves.